Wayne County Public School has addressed this in our return to school guidelines. There are 3 questions that have to be answered in the negative, meaning that the answer to these 3 questions have to be no in order for the student to enter the school building. So let's go over each question one by one and what happens if the answer is yes. All right, so these are the 3 questions. Questions 1, 2, and 3. Let's go to question 1. Question number 1. Has your child had close contact within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more with someone diagnosed with COVID-19? Or has any health department or healthcare provider contacted you and advised you to quarantine? If the answer is no, then move to question 2. If the answer to question 1 is yes, then you really shouldn't be at school. The student can return to school 14 days after the last time they have had close contact with someone with COVID-19. Close contact being defined as being within 6 feet of the person for 15 minutes or more. And they must complete a full 14-day quarantine, even if they test negative. So even if you, as a student, test negative, if you have been exposed to someone, if you've been in close contact with someone, you have to quarantine 14 days. Next question. So if you've answered no to question 1 and you move on to question 2, the next question is, do you have any symptoms that are on this list? The symptoms are fever, chills, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, a new cough, or a new loss of taste or smell. If you don't have any of these symptoms, then you can move on to question 3. If you do have any of these symptoms, then you should stay home and stay away from other people and contact a healthcare provider. Tell your parents you're not feeling good, that you have these symptoms, that you've got a fever, that you're feeling a chill, that you're having a hard time breathing, that you've got this cough that's just started, or that you can't taste or smell, and have your parents contact a doctor or a healthcare provider. Now, the second part of question 2 is that if you develop these symptoms or test positive for COVID-19, it has to, you can only come back to school when it has been at least 10 days since you had since you first had your symptoms. And it has to be at least 24 hours since you've had a fever. And what we mean by that, in that 24 hours, you can't have had a fever with the help of a fever-reducing medicine. This means that you can't have had a fever at all. And it has been 24 hours since your symptoms have improved, including cough and shortness of breath. All 3 of these qualifications have to be met before you can return to school. You have to meet the 10-day requirement since you've had symptoms, 24 hours without a fever, and 24 hours since your symptoms have improved. Question 3. Since your last day at school, have you been diagnosed with COVID-19? If you've been diagnosed with COVID-19, but you do not have symptoms, you still have to remain out of school for 10 days, and 10 days since your first positive test. If you develop symptoms later on, if you test positive and you don't have symptoms, but you then start getting fever, chills, a new cough, loss of taste, trouble breathing, then we have to go back to the previous list up here, and you have to meet these requirements. The at least 10 days since you've had symptoms. So essentially, going back and reviewing, if you answer yes to any of these questions, have you been close to someone with COVID-19? Question 1. Do you have any of these symptoms? Question 2. And question 3, have you been diagnosed with COVID-19? If the answer is yes, then you should stay home. If the answer is no to all 3, then you, by all means, should come to school.